Love and attachment are two different things. Unfortunately, you use them as though they are interchangeable, and they are not. And that's what we're going to talk about today. There's going to be 5 ways that you can tell the difference and examples I'm going to give you on love versus attachment, because you don't want to live in attachment, and love is not as stressful and hard as you actually think it is.
Check it out.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Positivity Experience. It is your girl, Lori, and I missed putting this up on YouTube last week because I thought that I was recording, and I was all excited that I was recording it, and I was not. So it is last week's podcast is just on the podcast platforms. But yes, and we are going to continue to talk about attachment, and we talk about that a lot because attachment is a really big deal. Letting go of things is a really big deal, and a lot of the issues that you're struggling with can be rolled down into that, right? Into attachment, into some past traumas, into unhealed things, into open wounds. And so very often, a lot of the things that you're dealing with, they don't have 100 different roots. As we start to unbox things, you're going to start seeing like 2 or 3, maybe 4 roots as to why some of these other spider webs have happened in your life. And that's why, there's a million different ones I could give you, but this podcast would be 17 hours long, and we're not going to do that. So I'm only going to give you 5 today. I'm going to give you the differentiate that for you, the difference of them. And then over on the Patreon, and welcome to all the newest Patreon subscribers, we're going to continue talking about it. And there's always a worksheet that helps you start to psychoanalyze yourself just a smidge and give you a place to really start. So if that's your jam, it's patreon.com/the positivity experience, or you can just click the link anywhere that you're getting this podcast right now. There's a link in it. It takes you right there. But let's talk about that today because this is so important. And I think, as a child, right, you are attached. Like you don't really have a choice, right? You're attached. You got to rely on these people. You don't even have words. You can only use emotion, and you're crying and you're screaming. And, we don't often remember that because of childhood amnesia. It has to happen. That's just part of life. And it's important that you understand that, yes, then you are reliant upon someone. But where it becomes a problem is where you're holding on to someone as though you possess them. Love is not possessive, and love itself is not difficult. It is not hard. I know. You want to be like, well, relationships take work. Relationships themselves do take work because there's effort. Relationships themselves are different than love. They can be based in love, but are they based in attachments? So that's why I wanted to unbox 5 things for you today. Only because there's so many more, but I really try to roll it down into the ones that so many of my clients and so many people who send me DMs and stuff seem to be struggling with. And, there's that fine line of love and attachment and lust as well. Like I'm going to throw lust in there for a minute. Like if you see somebody and you're like, oh my gosh, my heart goes pitter patter and all those things. Yeah, that's not love. That's lust. That's infatuation. Love itself is comfortable. Love itself is peaceful. It's not over the top. It's not overrated or underrated. It just kind of is. And that's number 1. That is voluntary. It's a voluntary nature, right? Voluntary nature. So love, it's a voluntary choice. It's a voluntary choice. It stems from these deep emotional connections and genuine care for human beings and other people and other things and other living beings and situations. It is something that you can't necessarily, you know how you see people who you go, oh my God, they're a psychopath. Like, okay, just because somebody's been hurt and they're not responding accordingly, they have an unhealed wound. That doesn't make them a psychopath. Now, a true psychopath isn't necessarily going to carry any emotions for anybody other than themselves. And they have these weird selective things like, well, I'm not going to hurt this person. Like they start playing scenarios in their head, but they're not doing so from any kind of a nature of empathy. And just because you're an empath and all of those things doesn't mean that you take on everybody's stuff. That means that you can look at somebody, you can be empathetic, but you're not taking on their stuff. It is not your role. It is not your job to fix their life. It's not your job to make them happy. And so you also have to understand that love itself, there is a sense of freedom in love. Love is not controlling. Love is not where have you been. Love is not who are you following on social media. That's not it at all. And it's autonomous. You've heard me say this before. It is autonomous. There's things I do in my marriage that my husband doesn't like. It wouldn't be his thing and mine either. Like, I love the Renaissance Fair. He does like the mountains, but like I'm like addicted to the mountains and things like that. It's not really his jam. He might go from time to time, but he's never going to go to the Renaissance Fair. Absolutely not. He'll never, ever, ever go to the Renaissance Fair. And I would never force him. See, I don't need you to be like, well, if you love me, you would go. Yeah, that's control. And love is not controlling. Love is autonomous. My husband's a big golfer. Yeah, I've gone golfing with him a few times and it was fine. It's not something that I'm going to do on a regular basis. I don't desire to take time off to go golfing. He does. Good for him. He goes out with his friends. I go out with my friends. That's great. So love itself is autonomous. It allows for you to understand somebody else's, I didn't say like it. I didn't say jump on board with it. To understand somebody else's goals. And that's where you get to decide, listen, love this person, thinks this person's great, and I'm really happy for them. It doesn't align with what I want in my life, and that's fine. So then you accept it. You'd be disappointed, and then you keep it moving. Because see, in that same scenario, attachment, remember, love is voluntary. Attachment is compulsive and fear-based. Attachment is compulsive and fear-based. Love is not fear. Attachment is. And attachment is going to arise from a space of dependency. You are dependent upon that person to make you feel good. No, that is not that person's job. That is not their title. That is not their role, and vice versa. It's not yours either. But see, in attachment, it goes into control, goes into possessiveness, goes into dependency, possessiveness, fear of abandonment, fear of rejection. That's your stuff to process. That's not love. To say, oh, I don't want to be without this person because my life will never be good. Okay, that's not love. Love is peaceful. Love is calm. Love carries no agenda. Where attachment is based and rooted in fear. Attachment is okay, well, if I don't have this person, if this person leaves, somehow or another, their reason of not wanting to be with me, regardless of what it is, has to do everything with me not being lovable. And that's not a true statement. So in this state, if you're and this isn't just for like love relationships, by the way, like intimate relationships. These are also friendships, adult parental relationships, siblings. Just because you are related to somebody does not make you family. You're related. Family does not have to be blood. Related, yeah. But just because they're related to you doesn't mean that you have to be attached to the idea of how you want that relationship to be. We've had that conversation multiple times on this podcast. Because some of these things are going to be warranted to keep repeating in various different topics and different episodes on this podcast. Because it isn't a one and done. It isn't like, well, it's everybody else. No, you have to understand that the reasons behind your attachment, trauma, abandonment, neglect, abuse, like there's a lot of reasons that are not your responsibility, but you got to heal it and not bring it into another relationship. You don't get into a relationship because you don't want to be by yourself, because then that puts this expectation on somebody else. And then when they don't live up to your expectations, and they will not because they are their own human, you start messing with full free will. That's a problem. Now you don't have love at all. Now you have a prisoner. I've said that multiple times. You're not looking for a relationship. You think you are, but you're looking for a prisoner because you want to be able to control the narrative. But with the moment you start putting guilt, threatening harm to self, anything like that, because that person's not in your life, that goes into manipulation. Okay. Don't judge yourself for it. Be aware of it so you know what to do. I bring awareness, but you got to have you got to be willing to receive that awareness. It's not a judgment. It's an awareness. And if you're doing it, then you now know where to start in your healing practice. Now, that was number one. Number two, the difference. That goes between selflessness and selfishness. Okay? So love is selflessness. Yep, totally selflessness. You have a desire to see another person happy. You have a desire to see them meet their goals. You have, with no comparison, no like, well, what about me? Like, aren't you going to bring me? No. That goes back into like this expectation thing. We're not doing that. You know, you want to see it. You want to see them fulfilled, even if it means sacrificing that relationship because you know that they are on a different path than you. That's really love. There was this old saying, I think I've said it on here before, growing up, like, you know, if you capture a butterfly, you know, release it. And if it comes back to you, it was meant for you. And if it doesn't, it never was. Like, the concept of that is still the same thing with people, right? You would never, ever, ever, ever want to force somebody to stay with you. Then they're just staying with you out of pity. They're staying with you because they're afraid. They're staying with you because of those things. And you don't ever stay with someone else either for those reasons. The moment you go, well, I don't really want to be with them, but I don't really want to hurt them, so I don't really want to break up with them. Well, that's not fair to them at all. That's not fair to them at all. You're not doing them any service. Let them go. Let them be hurt. You can't process how they're going to respond to it, but then that gives them an opportunity to find somebody who they want to be with. You can't have it both ways. You can't be like, I don't want you, but nobody else can have you. That's a whole different problem and a whole different topic for a podcast. Okay. But you have to understand that if you have a genuine love for somebody, you realize that it might not be you that they need to be with. And if it is you, you know what? Great. But don't try to fit them into your box. Okay. Now, attachment goes into selfishness. Now, the first one, selflessness. Second one, selfishness. It's self-centered and possessive. It's your own emotional needs. What about me? Yeah, well, I'm going to take this trip because I'm going to go hang with the fellas because I've done it for the last 35 years of my life and it's what we do. Yeah, but what about me? I'm going to be alone. Yeah, that's not their responsibility. That's attachment. That is your self-centeredness. That is your possessiveness. It's fulfilling your own emotional needs and maintaining a sense of security and control. Love is not control. Attachment is control. Okay, so if you're dealing with something from a past relationship that you haven't processed and you're in this new relationship or you're thinking about getting into a new relationship, make sure that you understand that it's not this new person's role to make up for your past. It's not this new person's role to take care of these wounds that this last person, that relationship created. That's not what that's for. That's why I always tell people you don't want to just jump right into a relationship because then you're going into attachment, not love, right? And love is a voluntary thing. Love is again, it's very peaceful. Attachment is not. Okay, so that is number 2. Number 3. Oh God, I love this. I love them all. But this one, when I was like, oh, I want to talk to him about this. Like acceptance versus expectations. Oh my goodness, this is so big. So love is acceptance. It embraces, love embraces another person as they are. With all their flaws, with all their strengths, with all their imperfectly perfect imperfections, you accept them for who they are. You don't try to change them to fit in the box that's going to make you happy. Now, if that person on who they are does not help you reach your goals, meaning like they're not in alignment, their life is a little bit different than what you feel like you would need in your life and what it is that you're seeking in a relationship. If in fact you can't deal with it, don't try to change it. Don't try to understand it. Don't try to be like, well, what's wrong with that person? There's nothing wrong with the person. There's nothing wrong with them. That's how they want to live their life. You don't have to love it. Right? You don't want to look at somebody and be like, oh, they have potential. I can change them. Yeah, no. Oh God, no. We're not going to play that game. Not even a little bit. Right? So you accept someone for who they are. You're not trying to change them. You're not trying to fix them. You're not trying to save them. You're just there for who they are. Every human, me, you, anybody else listen to this, anybody who will ever listen to this, anybody on the planet, we all have our own flaws, we have our own imperfections, and we have our own strengths. You don't get to judge somebody else's imperfections because the last time you checked in the mirror, you have them too. So as you're sitting in judgment of everybody else, be very careful. Let's make sure that we're not in judgment of self, because now you're projecting outward. Okay? It also involves accepting and understanding and supporting the other person's growth. So you guys might start something different journey, but you're starting this, okay, we're all going to get together. This is what it's going to look like. We're going to do this together. Great. And this person is taken off. I mean, this person, their growth is like, woo, they are just, for whatever reason, they are just really flying. And you're not. That's okay. Don't get jealous. Support their growth. You want to see them celebrate. You want to celebrate their wins. You want to see them. You want to celebrate them. You don't go, woe is me. Well, why can't I get there faster? That's not where we are. That's not love. That's not love. Now, expectations and conditions, that's what comes with attachment. It's going to be, okay, well, this person needs to fill my certain criteria and they better do it the way I want them to do it. And this is what I need. Now, that's different than a boundary. Boundary says, listen, I do not allow myself to be spoken to that way. I know what I want and what I don't want. So let me give you an example of that. This is not an expectation. This is what it is for me. If Paul and I were not married and I was single and I started dating somebody, you guys know I have my 3 kitties, love them. And they will always run the house. That's just how I live my life. I'm a cat lady, always going to run my life. And I'm potentially going to date somebody. And they pretty much check off a lot of boxes. But they go, oh God, yeah, I don't like animals. Well, that's already a deal breaker for me. I don't have an expectation for you to change. You can be who you want. You can hate animals all you want. I don't have an expectation of you. But I'm saying what I will allow in my circle. See, that's different than an expectation, right? I don't allow myself to be put in a position that I have to go, well, this guy is really great and he's got all these other things. I'm sure if he just met my cats, he'd love them. He'd fall in love with the cats. Now I'm setting the whole relationship up to be a nightmare. Okay, I could be like, wow, that kind of sucks because that's a deal breaker for me. Yours may not be cats. Yours may not be animals at all. But if you don't know what your deal breakers are, you won't have a boundary. Now, an expectation is, I thought we were going fine. You mean to tell me like you can't just accept my cats? Hello, we check every other box. Why would you not accept my cats? They don't have to accept you. They don't have to do those things. It doesn't have to be as you would do it. It doesn't have to be how you would want it. You are going to have conflict. You are going to have disappointment. You're going to set people up to fail before they even have an opportunity to exceed your expectations or fail. You're already setting them up. Well, they better do this. Well, they better do that. Nuh-uh. Boundary would be, hey, for me, if I'm single, I'm not going to go into a deep relationship with somebody who does not like my animals in the house. I mean, that's it. That's just my boundary. I don't expect you to suddenly change your mind. Don't. It's not so much an ultimatum. It is, well, this is what I'm going to accept. I don't really care how you receive that. This is about me and what I'm not going to deal with. And that's the same for you. The problem is you start to expect all these people to fill these voids for you that you swear is love. And you're like, well, can't they just get better for me? No, because it's not about you. Well, can't they just, no, it's not about you. So that's the difference between accepting someone and something. This can also go into situations. You don't have to love your past. You don't have to love what somebody's doing, but it's done. And the person is who they are. You accept it. If it doesn't serve you, you distance from it. Okay. Now, to kind of go similar to what we just talked about into the whole autonomy, right? Number 4 is freedom versus control. And if the whole title of your entire life should be love is not control, period. Like love is not control. And then it's something to remind yourself. So the love itself, when you love somebody, you allow this personal growth. You recognize that each person has their dreams, their aspirations, and interests. You are supportive of that person. You're not trying to prevent and be manipulative. Like in my husband's case, he's a golfer. He golfs a lot, like a lot. And I'm really glad he does because it's good for actually, he's going to be offing today. But yeah, so he's great. He absolutely loves it. So I encourage him for Christmas. I get him the membership, right? Like, yes, please go. I'm not like, oh my God, I can't believe he's golfing 6 days out of the week. Like what? Like, no, he loves that. That's one of his biggest passions. Why would I try to change that? I want to encourage that passion. I want him to grow in that passion. I'm going to support it. Even if that person he's got to be gone, like physically or emotionally, he's got to be gone and he's busy in the summer. And I mean, he pretty much plays golf year round, except for in the winter, right? He plays as much as he can. If the weather's nice, he's going to go out there and he's going to play. And good. Why? Because it makes him feel good as a person. Why, if I love him, why would I be like, well, what about me? Well, why can't you do that about me? Well, I wouldn't do that. What? Now we just took freedom away. We just put expectations in. We just put entitlement in. We put our insecurities in. Okay. And it's like, you have to understand that when you allow someone to be free, you allow them to have a better relationship with you. I want to give you an example of that with my son. He's 27. And when he went down to college, he was like, I'm not checking in all the time. Like, don't call me. He gave me my rules. And I was like, sounds good. Like, it's what you needed. And me and him have recently talked about it. He's like, Mom, I love that you don't check in on me all the time, that you're not asking me a million questions. You're not trying to control my life. It makes me want to reach out to you. It makes me want to spend time with you, right? Like, I'm not going to say you have to be here on my birthday. You have to be here on Thanksgiving. You have to be here on Christmas. Why would I do that? If you don't really want to be here, I don't want to force you to be here. You don't owe me anything. Why? Because I love you. I want you to be a happy person. I want you to find your way. And maybe I'm part of that. Maybe I'm not for that day or that year or whatever. And that's okay because I love you. I don't need it to be about me. But our relationship is really good because of that. Because I don't reach every day. I don't expect things from him. Like, that's why he will reach out to me. Hey, Mom, I got a question about this. Or, hey, okay, I think I'll come home in a couple weeks and hang out for the night or whatever. Cool. I don't have to be like, when are you coming? When are you coming? What are you doing? What are you doing? I'll miss you. Get home. What about me? It's my birthday. Like, so what? If you're going to spend my birthday with me, great. If you're not, that's fine because I love you. Now, control is different. Oh, goodness. We already know control is expectations. But in attachment, you're trying to control, you're trying to cling to the other person, possessive, like I said before, desire to limit that person's freedom. Well, can't you just go golfing 3 days a week, not 7? Well, why? That person's happy. Like it makes it happier in the house. It makes us better people together. I don't want to change that. And by the way, if a person does like, what's the word I'm thinking? Squash themselves or limit themselves. There's a different word. Suppress is the word I was looking for. They suppress their freedom and their life for you just because they don't want to hear you nagging. It's going to breed resentment. They are going to resent you. And then you're upset that they resent you, but you've created that beast, right? Because that's attachment. People feel suffocated. You ever see people, and this is big in teenage years. I'm not saying adults don't do it, but it's mostly in younger or like new relationships. Oh my God, I need to be with them all the time. Oh my God, I've cut out all my friends. They've cut out their friends. What? I don't want them to cut out their friends. Oh my God, I can't imagine my life without them. Yeah, that is not love. No, that is not love. And so you have to ask yourself, you have to look. Now, again, I'm not just talking about from a relationship, like a love or intimate relationship. This is also with your friends. Well, they should have invited me. Well, wait, why? I'm not going to invite all my friends to one place because, unless maybe it's a party or something, but I'm going to shop with certain people. I'm going to go out with certain people. I'm going to sit by the pool with certain people. Like, it's okay. I don't need to invite everybody because I want to spend quality time with certain people at certain times. Right? And so this is the important part of it. I don't need to be included into everything. I'm not going to have FOMO. You can go out with, there could be 10 friends and I could be, all 9 of them could be out partying and having the best time of their life. And I could be sitting at home watching Netflix and I am still perfectly fine. I'm going to like their posts. I'm not going to like it like, oh, you didn't invite me. I'm going to like it because they're out having a good time. I don't have to be included. I know they love me. We're cool. I don't need you to invite me everywhere. But that is going to come with self-esteem. That is going to come with self-confidence. And that comes from you knowing that you are solid as to who you are and that people don't always have to include you. People don't always have to check in on you. People do not always have to do that. And you want to see them grow. You want to see them go and have a good time. You're not upset and you're trying to discourage someone from going on a girls' trip because you can't make it that weekend, but that's the only weekend that they can make it. So then you start going, well, I don't know if that's a good idea. The weather's not supposed to be great. Now you just start being negative. Because you're trying to control it. You're trying to suffocate it. You're trying to hone it and possess it. People are not possessions. Relationships are not possessions. Your insecurities are for you to deal with. So your attachments can shift to the love. So we can get out of that. Now we have secure attachment. You're always going to live in some form of attachment. That's why you want secure attachment. When you have secure attachment, it's autonomous. I don't even know why they even call it secure attachment because it's just secure, but within yourself. But I get it. It is a secure attachment. So I didn't create it. So it's there and it's real. So I feel like that's really an important one for you. Now let's talk about number 5. Number 5 is longevity. Love has the potential, baby, to endure it all. It can evolve. You can start out liking. It can go into love. It can go into deeper love. It's going to grow stronger, and it's going to go stronger through challenges. I didn't say love. Now, love is easy, but when you love someone, you're going to be more inclined to have communication. You're going to be more inclined to listen to what the other person needs too, because it's not just about you. So when you start to create this relationship, it creates longevity, right? Like, think about that. Like, life itself is going to bring challenges. There's going to be misunderstandings. Oh God, especially with text messages. Like, do not ever, ever send something important via text message because the person on the other end is going to read it as they see it. Like, whatever tone they're going to put to it, whatever connotation they're going to put into it, whatever hidden agenda that they're going to, it doesn't matter. That's why you don't do that on text. But my point to that is that you are going to have adversity. You're going to have challenges. You're going to have misunderstandings. But love itself can conquer it. And again, remember what I was saying earlier. That might be without you in their life. You can love from afar. But you have to accept someone for who they are. Now, attachment, it's going to be fleeting and temporary. How many times have you thought, think of your life. Think of if you've lived in attachment, how you were all in. Oh my God, you were like, this person, this situation is my everything. And it was. And then you lost it. And it felt like you were just never going to be happy again. But here you are. Here you are today. Most people have let it go. You might say, oh, I could have done this. Oh, I should have done that. You let it go. It's temporary. Attachment is temporary. And it's going to even diminish some if the conditions or circumstances dissolve, right? So like, you could be like, love this person. Oh my God, love this person. Want to be with them forever and ever and ever. And then they move away. And long distance relationships can be very difficult anyway. And so that's why, you have to remember that love and attachment, they can coexist. Like, they can coexist in some degree. The secure attachment, not the avoidant, not all of those complex ones, but yes, and the lines do blur. I got it. But you got to be careful where it is, because if you stay into that attachment, it's going to be very difficult. And then people aren't going to want to share things with you. And then you're like, why did they go to the mall? Oh my God, I saw it on somebody else's snap that they went to the mall. They didn't even tell me. Of course they didn't tell you. Why didn't they tell you? Because you were going to lose your mind. Nobody is going to share with you when you are being controlling and you're flying off the deep end and you're getting emotional and you're doing all of these things because you're trying to control it. You're trying to harness it, and you're living in a space of expectations and control and, selfishness in many ways. And again, this isn't to point out that you're some bad person. You're not a bad person, not even a little bit. You have issues that have led you to the place of living in attachment and not love. Don't judge that. Use it as an awareness. Don't say, what's wrong with me? Why can't I not have attachment? Well, it doesn't matter. You did what you did. You're here now. So when you have self-awareness and you're in that space, you're going to have a better relationship because you're going to be more solid with yourself. It is not anyone's responsibility to make you love yourself. And it is not your job to force someone to love you. You can have your boundaries. You can have your deal breakers, have your consequences behind it. But remember, if you really love someone, they don't have to change for you. You can accept them for who they are, not. And if it serves you or if it doesn't serve you, well, that is entirely up to you.
Check it out.